うんうん。
エッチ。
Frieren as an anime has a myriad of emotional moments and scenes that ask for genuine reflection. For many, the calming scenes of Frieren and her party journeying across the world serve as a great escape from the constant drama in everyday life. May it be leisurely shopping sprees or scenic trips down memory lane, there's no shortage of breathtaking moments in this anime. With that being said, all stories must hit a crescendo, and Frieren is no exception in going through with this in the form of added action. Early on in the season, the action moments are relatively few and far between, at least compared to usual anime in the fantasy genre. However, as the second half of the season starts to show itself, viewers are quick to notice the sudden shift from emotional fantasy adventure to a sort of tournament arc shonen bonanza. But this isn't to say Frieren has gone too far off the path it set out to go. There are still certain things about this that hold potential for a promising future, and that's exactly what we're looking into today. The character behind the action.
フリーレンの入れ知恵だな。私は有望な魔法使いを見逃すほどバカじゃない。
The second half of the first season sees the beginning of what many fans may now know as the First Class Mage exam arc. For some, this marks a significant turn for the series as a lot more high-paced action and character introductions occur. It's an arc reminiscent of the bread and butter of a lot of shonen, a tournament arc. So, is it really all that bad? Well, right off the gate, I can confidently say no. In fact, I absolutely love this arc, as it still holds on to some key elements of Frieren as a series, while also allowing the introduction of some highly fascinating characters. But let's save that for a bit later. I do understand why some fans may be put off by this arc. It is a major shift from previous arcs, and that mostly has to do with the fact that there are a lot more characters here that we switch around with in POV. While you'll be sure to enjoy scenes of Frieren showing off her godly proficiency with magic, you'll be a fair bit disappointed if you come in expecting a lot of deep character scenes with her. This is an arc where a lot of the side characters will shine, particularly many who've only been introduced for the first time. Take for example Seria, who I think has the most impactful development during this arc while also acting as a good narrative anchor to justify all the action.
仲間に恵まれたか。運が良かったな。
そうだよ。
Well, I say impactful development, but in typical Frieren fashion, it's more like character revelation. We learn a lot about her in the way she orchestrates the tests, treats her subordinates, and talks about magic in general. In both tests taken with the arc, the threat of death was just around the corner. While the action-filled tests were not directly handled by Seria, they each reflect the nature of magic that she believes and pushes. Magic as a weapon. The first test involves capturing a magical bird called Stilla. While sounding relatively peaceful, this test is essentially a battle royale. Yeah, you do just have to capture a bird, but they're unbelievably difficult to catch through brute force. And no one, besides Frieren, knows any tricks to capture them properly. Naturally, some mages have magic better suited for the task, but that's where the battle royale bit comes in. If you don't have the magic to properly catch one yourself, the easier alternative becomes taking it from someone who does.
見つけた。やはり魔法使いおったな。どんなに優秀な魔法使いでも、この瞬間だけは。
But that's just the reality of magic for Seria. It's not just a tool to capture what you want, but a tool to take what you want. Moving on to the next stage, the high amount of fatalities leads the next proctor, Sensa, to go through with an exam that calls for less head-to-head collisions. Ironically enough, this turns out to be a test where the mages battle clones of themselves. Now, magic isn't just a simple weapon. It's a weapon you need to be familiar enough with to be able to defeat even yourself. Knowing your own weaknesses and who's best suited to exploit them, just another part of a bloody game of battle. Finally, after many examinees end up passing, Seria herself steps up to directly show us exactly what she wants. The final part of the exam turns into a one-on-one interview where no one else but Seria decides who passes. The world of magic is harsh and only reserved for those of the highest caliber. Most importantly, it's best suited for those that utilize it for bloody affairs. Those that tremble at the sight of her power has no place becoming a first-class mage.
魔法の世界では、イメージできないものは実現できない。
But after all of this, is this all that Seria's character boils down to? Well, no. The best moment for Seria's character for me doesn't even reside within the tests themselves. It resides in her one student, Lernen, who we catch but minor glimpses of, including one small moment where he attacks Frieren in an attempt for a duel. The reason? To make his master's name known in legend through his deed of killing the mage of the hero's party. You see, even as we look at this guy looking a little over 100 years in age, he's still very insecure about the possibility of Seria not being proud of him. He believes he hasn't fully lived up to Seria's expectations through the many little comments she throws out. And it's by no means thanks to the fact they live in an age of peace. What's more, Seria's disappointment shines even harder now that he's at the last legs of his human life. But even with all this baggage hanging in front of her, Frieren simply brushes off the bloodlust and tells him that Seria is essentially a small little tsundere. I guess the elven fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. Despite all that Lernen may believe, Seria would not have taken Lernen as a disciple at all if she didn't have any affection for how he'd turn out. There's no need for him to shed any blood for the admiration of his master because she already does. In fact, the very existence of the first-class mage exam is just one tiny piece of Seria fulfilling the wishes of her long-lost disciple Flamma.
人生には重大な決断をしなければならない時がいくつもあるが、あの子たちはそれを先送りにはできないんだ。
To bring forth the age of magical institutions. Even after so many years have passed since Flamma's passing, Seria is still doing her best to do what was asked of her. And despite how she may talk about the foolishness of taking in human disciples, she's taken in many. And Lernen himself is clear evidence of Seria's peak tsundere-ness. If you're feeling dere about this video, do consider leaving a super thanks down below. It really means a lot. While you're at it, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more awesome content like this one. And make sure to join the comments down below if you want to share your thoughts on how the action goes in Frieren.
電剣あれも対処できるのか
The other characters in on the action. Okay, so we went into detail with Seria and how she's the unsung director behind the scenes of all this action. But make no mistake, the arc also provides a brilliant launching pad for characters like Denken, Wurbel, Land, and the supremely gorgeous Ubel. Now, outside of this glorified tournament arc, we didn't see too much, but there were definitely enough to plant the seeds for future story developments that we'll hopefully see in the next season. Staying within the shonen wavelength, this arc also acts as a great standard way to show further where Fern really stands as a mage. Yeah, she had a prior scene against demons earlier in the series, but this arc provides many scenes of Fern directly competing against other human mages. We don't just get more scenes of some Fern offense, but also some head-to-head fights that show us just how effective Frieren's teachings are. And just as you would hope, Fern does anything but disappoint.
でかしたフェルン。
The warmth in action.
それでこそ私の弟子だ。
Now, to answer the question fully, is this arc really that far off from the tone and style the series was known for?
Well, in my humble opinion, that's not totally the case.
You see, for me, the particular strong point Frieren carried throughout its first half was in the emotional gut punches hidden within almost every episode. And you'd think that once the action gets going in full swing, not much of that occurs, but in actuality, there's still plenty of that sort of thing going around. Even the timely flashbacks to earlier days are given new homes within the episode, albeit in the form of more familiar shonen-esque flashbacks. Nonetheless, all of these things I love are still here. It does come at the price of the slice-of-life scenes, but I wouldn't even say that the action is that much soulless. Yes, there are some very familiar scenes of comeback moments and timely saves, but for the most part, the air in most of these scenes, particularly the ones where Frieren and Fern are involved, still has that unique Frieren spin. Our favorite elf granny and kudere daughter are always holding on to their composure.
私がゼーリエに何を言っても不合格になるように、フェルンは何を言っても合格になる。
Their fights at least aren't so much about the result than it is the grand revelation that will likely occur. And you can bet the house that I'd be lapping up all the extra lore on those two that I can. All that being said, I'm not discounting how some fans may feel. In the first half of the season, we were treated to some truly emotional moments, and some absolutely gorgeous animation even without any battling going around. But by the looks of things, while we may see the return of our slice of life adventure yet, the action will most likely be a mainstay. It's natural to be a little bit disappointed in this, but it's also natural for a story to reach new heights eventually. We can't always spend our time surviving the winter cold and drinking away at some village. Sometimes you need a little bit of shonen energy to get the blood pumping. Who knows, maybe we can even get a training arc someday. Wait a minute. Are you a fan of the increase in action on Frieren? Looking forward to more spell slinging in the future? What's your favorite addition to the cast during the mage exam arc? Was it Ubel? Please tell me it's Ubel. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Anyways, thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below what you thought of today's episode. We'll be seeing you again in the next video.